Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, joined by
a very stuffy and recovering Organoid Zero. Colds are wonderful. Times and change and blah.
I don't know how it is up there, but down here it's like we literally had like 3 days of spring, and then it went back to winter.
We just had about a week of spring. I woke up this morning and went, "Oh, there's 2 inches of snow."
We're not that bad. We're not that bad yet.
Wisconsin and to a degree Minnesota weather are wonderful because you can experience all 4 seasons in the span of 3 days.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Funny. Our opening tangent, and as has come to be known. Go check out the convention experience episode for more. But the first convention I ever went to, it was in late March, and it had been respectable. Also, but I don't mean like right now, like on my Facebook, it was 12 years ago. I'm getting the 12 years ago today stuff. That's the day of this recording. Yeah. So, but I remember like it wasn't great all weekend, but it was acceptable. And then as we're leaving, snow was falling. It's not just like snow, like it is sticking snow. It is people in the hotel are saying like, hey, you might want to leave town now. But we didn't because we had one more day of that convention to go to. So we drove home real slow. But we didn't care because it just made at that time, we're like, hey, so we'll stretch a little bit more out of this fun weekend we just had.
Oh, yeah. No. Gotta have those experiences.
Absolutely. So today, this is something I know some of my subscribers have been, well, at least somewhat been waiting for. It is a return to wrestling discussion, kind of. Today, we will be talking about our favorite wrestling video games. So, no, I will not be talking about the current product, if that's what you want to hear. But I also know a lot of people are AEW ride or die, so they don't want to hear my thoughts on the current product. But wrestling video games, they've become as intrinsic to the culture of pro wrestling as everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to talk about our favorites. When did you start playing wrestling video games? What do you remember what your first one is before and subsequently if the first one you played, is it one of your favorites?
It is one of my favorites. It is WCW versus NWO Revenge.
Well, let's just get started there. And not just let's just talk about the THQ Aki N64 quadrilogy, which is kind of held up by a lot of American fans as the pinnacle.
It is.
Yes, it's become a bare basic take, but I'm.
It's good. I'm sorry if that's what my take is.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, like, anytime someone says that, you have somebody who's only played newer video games go like, well, actually, just because you're a boomer and don't like, the way video games are made now does not mean these are good.
No.
You get those sorts of people. But I really think this is the way, and they all built on one another.
Yep.
The way those games are set up are probably the way all wrestling games should be set up. Yes, it's limited. It was on the N64. Yes, the graphics don't look as good as 2K. Yes, the cutscenes are laughably bad compared to
just bouncing back. Yes. Hey man, I thought it was cool. And you want to know what? They cared more about ambient sound and soundtracks back then. They cared about more stuff that you don't think about nowadays. Because like I tell you now, I will be sitting working at work and the thought, the just random background music from No Mercy will just play in my head.
Yes. But yeah, like all those things haven't aged well, but the gameplay is still perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, and you can think whatever you want. I'm not a gatekeeping douchebag. If you like other games, that's your prerogative. But I will also. This is the one time I will be an asshole. Other than just not liking AEW, which has automatically made me, or I shouldn't say not liking AEW, not being as big of a fan of the
Yeah.
current AEW product is a more
Yes.
accurate way of putting it. Already preemptively makes me an asshole on the internet. If you think that is not how wrestling games should be made, you're wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, you're wrong. This will be my gatekeeping douchebag. You're wrong, because rather than having to, it's how a game needs to be. All four of them. Oh, you're playing with fucking Sting. Okay, then you do holds on the legs, and then once the wrestler starts holding his leg and his health bar's in red, you put the Scorpion Deathlock on.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And they had this crazy thing back in the day, which is going to translate into my other next favorite game after that. And I have one that I doubt that I know you're going to be amazed when I say it as a favor because no one talks about it. But they had this crazy thing where if you wanted to get a character, you unlocked it.
Yeah. Now I will say this, especially on the 2K games where like how ridiculous like the career mode is. I'd rather just have the option of going, okay, credit card, click.
But
Because it's stupid, but I get it. It's
But it's like you had like I'll tell you, like it's not in it, but like WWF No Mercy, you had to win the battle royale, depending on or the Royal Rumble, depending on how far you got, is how far you got with wrestlers,
yeah,
and like it, and at the point of where 2K games, you have 9,000 things to unlock, and Mercy you had 9.
yeah.
At that point, I'd rather like play it.
Well, I don't like how you have to use like currency to just simply jump off the top rope in the 2K games.
Yeah,
Like you got to earn in-game currency just to be able to use the top rope. And then later it became, I want to unlock losing the top rope. Well, how about you save your currency for a loot crate? Okay, I got 4 for a loot crate. And then I get 4 loot crates. I'm like, I could put Kane's mask and a tutu on my guy, but
yeah.
I can't jump off the fucking top rope.
Yeah, and that's when they changed the stuff you can unlock in game. That's the stupidity of it. Because just think about it, in SmackDown vs. Raw, just bring it. If I beat the career mode, I can play as Fred Durst, which is the pinnacle of unlocks that you'd want in a wrestling game.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
We're gonna
Benjamin.
put a pin in the Fred Durst talk, because there's something I'm going to talk about later. That's but I have a friend who loves the 2K games. Until he started hating WWE, he loved the 2K games. You know exactly who you are when you watch this. And we had a huge argument. He's like, all video games today have loot crates. The fact that you just can't tolerate a loot crate just means you can't tolerate games now. I'm like, exactly. It means I can't tolerate games now. I would understand if loot crates were for like the aforementioned, like, okay, I want to put, whatever. Like I said, I unlock the ability to put Undertaker's or Kane's mask in a tutu on my wrestler. I mean, that's not what I want on either one of my wrestlers, but someone might think that's kind of neat. So, okay, keep it for that kind of shit. But the ability to use the top rope in a game is just left to rolling the dice on a loot crate is kind of dumb. Whereas in the, we're gonna go through all of them, like on No Mercy. Okay, you earn money, and then you can just get like some extra moves. Like, okay, if you want, you can use the top rope, but do you want to do this other top rope move? Buy it from the in-game currency. Do
Yeah,
you want to throw a fireball at your opponent? Buy it from the in-game currency. Not, using the top rope.
yeah. And the take, and
That
I'm
that should be
sorry,
standard.
I
That's like automatic windows now in a car. That's standard. You
and
don't mess with that.
I play a lot of current games. I keep up with it. I'm sorry, the take that all games have loot crates now shows whoever made that comment plays about 10% of an exact niche of video games. I don't mean to be that dick, but
Yeah.
that is a very limited scope of all. I'm sorry. I'm like, okay, my favorite franchise is the Horizon series, a series that sold 25 million, creeping towards 30 million copies now. You couldn't even look at a loot crate in that game. There's a lot of them that are like that. So if you don't play something that's not multiplayer, it doesn't have loot crates
Well, I mean,
90% of the
I will
time.
say that is something he likes to play. So I
Then
get it. You know,
that's the exact rub. Like, all games have loot crates. Tell me you don't play anything other than multiplayer games.
I'm sure he does, but that was like his justification. I mean, like I said, he can like it, but I remember eventually when I sat him down to play No Mercy, and like he saw somebody do it like a tornado DDT. I'm like, yeah, this game was on an N64 game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you know, but it starts off with WCW versus the World,
Yes.
which I honestly like played that game minimally. I just bought it at
I've
the
never
Cape
touched
Convention.
it.
I just bought the Cape Convention. It's a good game, but when you're used to like the tweaks that have been made, it's hard to kind of like readjust your playing style to it.
Uh-huh.
Because I was playing like there's just different, just certain little things. You're like, oh yeah, that wasn't put in yet. Oh shoot, that wasn't put in yet.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I haven't played the Japanese version of these games, so I hear are even better.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. I haven't played them yet, but like I'm like that's my dream. If I could, buy any game, like I want that. I want a converter. I want Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. And I want it pre-edited with all the workarounds from New Japan and FMW. I want them re-edited and their names edited.
Nice.
I like that would be like give me any game. That's what I want. But still, WCW versus the World it's a fun game. You can't change the name of the wrestlers, but it's kind of like who they are. Like that doesn't say Taka Michinoku, but I know that's Taka Michinoku. That doesn't say Abdullah the Butcher, but I know that's Abdullah the Butcher.
What was it? The Fire Pro games that had the descriptors of them? Is like, and then it was
Yeah.
Scott Hall. It was drunk wrestler with a very large body, or like something.
Yeah.
I love those. It's like, you know who they are. They aren't saying it.
But the thing is, you could go back in and edit them. It's like clearly that is Scott Hall. Click.
Exactly.
Then we have Revenge, which expanded upon WCW versus NWO World Tour exponentially. The only thing that sucked is they completely changed the look of the Japanese guys in the back. I was wondering who those guys were whenever I first played that game, because that was the first game I ever played of the not first wrestling game, but it's one of the first wrestling games I ever played. First one I ever played for the N64. And I always wondered who those guys were in the back. And I kept wondering, when is Maya Inca Boy and Hanzo Man and, Aki Man gonna show up? And for the longest time, I didn't even know it was Aki. I thought it was AKI, but I digress.
I did too.
Yeah. When's AKI Man gonna show up on Nitro? And then no, it turns out that or Dr. Frank, that was one I played with a lot. And then you find out no, those are just they just completely did away with the look. And I'm like, damn it. Cause that would have been really if they would have been normal, especially now that I've watched Japanese pro wrestling, now that I, some of those wrestlers that those movesets were some of my favorites, I can be like, okay, this is Kenta Kobashi, and I want to play as Kenta Kobashi, and this is, this is Mitsuharu Misawa, and that's what I want to do. The funniest story is one of them was called EWF, and that's where Maya Inca Boy was. And I thought EWF was ECW when I was 9 years old after I played it. And do you remember the it's like the preview channel where I'd have previews for pay-per-views and movies, and then just be a rolling screen of what was on TV and what was coming up. Did you guys have that?
Yeah.
They had a commercial for an ECW pay-per-view. And I know my Inca Boy is black and The guy I'm going to talk about is just really tanned. But
Okay.
I saw like so I feel kind of bad now, but I was also 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, you
So
were young.
um I saw a commercial for ECW pay-per-view, and then I saw like a wrestler there, and they're like the world's champion. I saw like hit a very tan nature and a bunch of tattoos. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's where Maya Inca Boy wrestles. Because ECW, EWF, I guess that makes sense. Turns out I thought Taz was Maya Inca Boy.
Boy, I was waiting. I was like, I'm pretty sure he means Taz,
Taz,
but yeah,
I thought Taz was Maya Inca Boy.
that's funny.
Um, so, but this game, I'd say this: there's Revenge is almost the perfect game of the series. It's just missing two things that one was not around at all then,
Yeah,
and the other should have been standard, but I also get why it wasn't on the game, and that's real music and fighting backstage.
fighting back
Now,
and
fighting backstage
creating your own wrestler. That'd
and
be
create a wrestler.
yeah,
So three.
yeah,
Um, Fighting backstage hadn't been introduced yet,
yep,
so I'll forgive that. The music, there was in WCW, there was a lot of just generic, music, network bumper music that they used for the
yeah.
wrestlers. So I kind of get like outside of Goldberg and the NWO and the Wolf Pack, few other ones in there. A lot of those wrestlers just had, like Chris Jericho even said in his book, he had like basketball highlights number 7. Because he like heard his music and then was watching the NBA on TNT and like heard his music in the background during highlights. And he's like, that's my music. So like, I get it. I get like why you wouldn't do that. But the creating your own wrestler, that would have been nice to have.
Yeah.
Um, Funny story about all of that is, so I bought I ended up buying a new N64 about 10 years ago, or
Okay.
new. Like I bought a replacement N64
Yeah.
system. I still have this game, and there's somebody that's on 2 of these games, maybe 3. Yeah, he's on that. We don't talk about these days because he did something pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I edited that particular wrestler in 2 of these games to not be that person. And because of the limited space, I just turned this guy into the Dynamite Kid because he wrestles very similarly to
Very much
Dynamite
like
Kid.
him.
The only problem is like Dynamite Kid is also not a good person, was not a good person in the slightest, but at least he never actually went through with anything. He
Yeah.
just, he just was a shit person.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
but
one day we're gonna have to have that discussion here because it's bad. Because my streak of liking wrestlers in the mid to like 2000s was not good. But yeah, and then you get and then like No Mercy. You want to know the weird thing about why I played Revenge versus No Mercy? My parents got divorced when I was in like 4th grade, so like 2000 like 1998 I had like a console and well I had both versions because only good thing about divorce you get two everything, but so I had Revenge, and then every now and then I had this family of wrestling fans that lived down the road. It was a group of brothers, and the one was a grade below me, so we hung out a lot. And then whenever we went over there, we actually like wrestled and did stuff. And they would let me borrow No Mercy. They had a copy of No Mercy that like every fourth time you turned it on, it would just
yeah, I have that copy too. Because of that, I cloned Andre the Giant and Shawn Michaels as like, because you can clone move sets and everything. So I
yeah,
have a perfect creative version of Shawn and Andre
yeah,
on that game, saved to my controller pack to always, always, always be able to go back. So when it wipes,
yeah. That's why I was more attuned to my copy of Revenge Room. Like, I don't lose shit when I play this one.
what's funny is like when I got that console, that new old console, I didn't know where all my N64 games were, so I bought a copy that they had at that pawn shop of Revenge, and on that one the data never saves. I guess the
Really?
battery's dead in it or something, the
Okay.
save battery. So like, because it was like it was all like because you remember on Revenge, you start out with you can only go for like 3 belts, and then when you like win the U.S. belt, you can go for the world belt. When you win the TV belt, you can go for the cruiserweight belt, and then you unlock a wrestler that goes along with it. And then I remember winning the U.S. belt that unlocks Kurt Hennig,
Yeah.
and then you can go for the world belt, which unlocks Roddy Piper. And I remember doing that and then the cruiserweight unlocks TV or TV unlocks cruiserweight. I can't remember.
It's been a hot
Um,
minute.
um, So I remember doing that and then, turning my game off and then like, okay, hey, I'm going to try and do that. Oh, did it not save? Okay, I'll try it again. Go through it. All right, cool. I'm like making sure like, okay, I'm not hotboxing the save. I guess it's perfect. Off. Play a couple days later. All wiped again. I'm like, and this is no controller pack, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sucks.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a
Luckily,
joy.
I found my copy and it still works.
It's nice.
All the way to one of the Kidmans on there, because I thought Kidman was really cool.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, I didn't watch WCW really regularly until '99, so I wasn't aware of like the meth tweaker Kidman that was put on the game. Like I was just like cool high flying Kidmans who I liked.
Exactly.
But I like changed one of the costumes on Kidman just to have my name.
Nice.
But literally, but now I realize I made myself a meth addict on that game.
Kidman was one of my favorite wrestlers starting out there. They gave him the most ridiculously cool theme song when he was wrestling in the mid 2000s.
WCW or
and when he switched to WWE, he
oh,
got
okay.
this, like gangster rap song that did not fit him at all. But
okay.
I'm like, whoa, that thing's awesome.
I was gonna say, I remember generic music, but I always remembered Kidman's music because I just always because I like Kidman, It's it was real upbeat and bouncy, bum 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 bum, like yeah, it's Kidman.
I'll send you it in your messages.
I know what you're talking about now. I just didn't know if you were talking about bouncy rock, generic but bouncy rock music, or the gangster rock or gangster rap version, which you're right, did not fit Kidman at all.
No. That's like when they just gave Theodore Long Rodney Mack's theme when he just fell off a cliff. I'm like, it says Mac Militant in the song. Why does he have this? But I'm like, it fit after a while.
He managed Rodney Mack.
Yeah, he did.
It does make sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, it works.
So we go from Revenge. Well, who was your go-to on Revenge? Who was your go-to wrestler?
I really liked Psychosis. I really liked La Parka, and I really like Hanselman.
Yeah, Hanselman was Hayabusa, so which I think that's cool.
Okay, nice. But yeah, those guys were just. I loved the move that I could spam where you could just throw them into the corner and throw them off, do a backflip off, and do that. I'm like, it's simple shit. I like it.
I played as Hanselman a lot. I play as Goldberg a lot just because that spear would just, especially if you're playing somebody, just spam spear, spam spear, spam spear.
Oh yes.
Sting, I like playing Sting a lot.
Because you got
start off with a bat. And then this was also I think one of the first games where you could have interference, but I know Warzone had interference. You had to put in a code, and then you were disqualified if you used the code. Yeah. But this one where you could have interference, and it would if you're getting your ass kicked, turn interference on. Somebody will come out and help you, and briefly to help you try and get back into it. And Sting would always come from the rafters.
Yes, which is awesome.
Which was really cool. And the first time I saw that, I'm like, whoa! And the other thing I think's cool is they had the old Surfer Sting attire on there. So I remember one time changing it so that was the main Sting attire. Just so I could see Surfer Sting coming from the rafters.
Yep.
Just like, there he is. Play Sting a lot. Sometimes for shits and giggles, I take like one of the low-level wrestlers and then try and take them through everything. Like I remember winning the cruiserweight title as Lodi.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yuji Nagata won the, who I'd later, like become when I discovered Japanese pro wrestling and found out that he was more than just, the lower mid card WCW guy. How great Nagata was in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Took Nagata to the world title. Only wrestler the only wrestler I can't win with on that game is Bischoff because he doesn't have a grapple, so therefore he doesn't have a special, so therefore he's useless.
Yeah, because he was the karate guy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not like WCW versus NWO World Tour where they have a version of Muhammad Ali that doesn't have a grapple, but he has this big knockout punch. It's like, okay, you don't need a grapple because like the press the A button to grapple, just
hit him,
knocks you the funk out,
Exactly.
On my cord. So yeah. That's pretty much it. Now we go to WrestleMania 2000.
Which is the most ridiculous creator wrestler. My brain exploded when I saw that creator wrestler. What way would you? I know it's exaggeration, but like, what way would you like their knees to move in this position? What way would you like? Whoa! It was fucking ridiculous.
The coolest thing about that creator wrestler is I remember like looking for special moves, and because it was developed by the same people, and I didn't, like at 10, whenever I played it, I didn't know anything about like, well, it's the same. I knew it was the same company, but I didn't realize like, well, they could do. They still had all the taunts and moves from Revenge. So you want to create Goldberg, the spear, the jackhammer, which they call the sledgehammer, which I found funny.
Yes.
And like all of his taunts are right there. So you can create Goldberg and he's doing Goldberg moves. Yep. You want to create Macho Man. First of all, also, going back to Revenge, every time you did the taunt with Macho Man, you heard, oh, yeah, which was perfect. You didn't have the, oh, yeah, on when you create them, but you did have the, which I thought like, okay, works well enough. You could create Macho Man. You could create Sting. You could create like every move was in that game. So, I think you had like 12 slots for creator wrestler. You could get WCW wrestlers in there along with, I didn't watch Japanese wrestling at that time, but they had the Japanese moves too. So if you wanted to take Goldberg to WrestleMania, go for it. If you wanted to bring Macho Man back to the WWF, you got it. If you wanted to bring Bret Hart back to the WWF, you got it. If you wanted Rey Mysterio, you got it. Except for they didn't have the mask, so you kind of have to get a little creative with Kane's, I think.
Yeah.
My only gripe about WrestleMania 2000, and again, this was something, it wasn't standard at that time, so it's forgiven. The Road to WrestleMania mode is long. And there's really like, it's just, for a WWF game, it's long and monotonous. Now, it's the exact same season mode that they have in Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which is an All Japan Pro Wrestling based game. That mode lends itself better to a Japanese type game, pretty well based 95% in ring than the WWF, where they did have like a few like generic cutscenes that would happen. But overall, it didn't lend itself well for Attitude Era Sports Entertainment.
Yeah.
That's not a slight because, it was what it was. This was 2000.
Just didn't fit.
But, especially when you saw what they would do the following year. Oh, Lord. But
Yeah.
what did you think about WrestleMania 2000 coming out of? They had the music. They had
Yeah,
all the music.
they had all the
Um,
music. It was kind of the one that fell to the wayside for me because I never really knew it existed when I was younger. I knew it existed when I started collecting N64 stuff when I was in high school.
okay.
So I never learned about it I got until I got later because I just went WCW, NWO, No Mercy, and then I was on PS2.
Right.
But like I tried some of the other ones like Attitude and Mayhem and other ones that were not whatever. But
Mayhem is like, to me, a long time ago I saw like a YouTube channel do their top 10 best and top 10 worst wrestling games in one video. And WCW Mayhem was their number 10 best and also their number 10 worst. And I think that's a great way of describing Mayhem.
it's a very weird game.
Like, the renders look pretty decent in the face, but then
Yeah.
they have this little like fucking like bunny rabbit thing going on, and like it never changes because I remember like you had the Ric Flair, it like never changed because he was like,
Yes. It was very awkward. Very awkward.
um, but in the face it looked much better than some of the renders on the THQ games,
Yeah.
and they had the backstage,
Yep.
which was cool, innovative, and it was done well. You know, it wasn't like, oh, they tried to fit the backstage stuff in, but it was bad. Like, no, it was good. It
Yep.
wasn't as good as what No Mercy would do the following year, but
No,
it was still good.
it was still good. Yeah.
Um, but I just remember on like the Creator Wrestler, and they had like some cool unlockables. Like, you could unlock Stephanie McMahon, which I thought was cool. It was the pre-heel turn Stephanie, but like, and this mentality hasn't aged well, but I remember when I unlocked Stephanie on WrestleMania 2000, this before No Mercy, but it was like after she turned heel and joined with Triple H, and they had the McMahon Helmsley regime in WWF. Again, this is wrong, but I was 10 and she was forced Mick Foley into early retirement and was leading beatdowns on The Rock every week. So
Yep.
fucking I was 10, 11 years old before you get all mad. When I unlocked her, I would just have like freaking punching bag practice with The Rock and Mankind and Kane, and Stone Cold was gone, but I still used Stone Cold. Like, all right, I'm gonna get this chair and just beat Stephanie McMahon up because the way she talks every week. Chris Jericho.
Yep.
All right, we're just gonna keep putting the walls of Jericho on Steph. I was tap. Okay, we're gonna rematch this. Here we go again. That's what you get. That's what you get. That's what you get for everything you did on Raw this week.
I know, I get it. There was definitely moments where I did that at points too. It's a kid mentality.
It's like when as a kid, whenever like you're a sports fan. I did this a lot with sports fan. Like, my team would lose. They'd lose. Cardinals would lose. The Broncos would lose. Notre Dame would lose. So as a kid, what I would do this was I'd go downstairs and turn on the game, or go into my room and turn on the game, depending. I had my N64 at my grandparents' house and my Super Nintendo at my house. So, and then I'd turn on the game, and then I would do a 2-player game with whatever game that just was with my favorite team and the team they lost to. And then I would put 2 players on. And
Oh
then
yeah.
just like, okay, so you won. Like, I think the Broncos are going to score about 100 points on the 49ers this week. Phew!
Yep.
Like, oh, okay. Well, I think Bill Romanowski's going to just get Steve Young right now. just. And the final score is the Broncos 130, the 49ers nothing. The Broncos 155, the Chiefs nothing.
Nice. I had the opposite effect of that, where like I had friends who were jocks in high school, like nicer guys, but they were more toward that end. We would play Madden at my house, and I would get my ass kicked so bad that they would take over my controller, catch me up, and then we'd play that, and then it'd still whoop my ass.
So like I was doing the equivalent of that all the time with the 71 hasn't aged well, but I mean, like, to be fair, I did it with Triple H. I did to Triple H. I did it to, you know, name a heel. Name a heel that made life difficult for Rock or Mankind or Chris Jericho at that time, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
But yeah, but you know, somebody's gonna take that the wrong way. I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone did something stupid when they were a child.
So that leads to the final game, No Mercy, the best wrestling game ever. Like everything that No Mercy did, update it, put it in a new put No Mercy in 2K, put the gameplay style of No Mercy in 2K, take the cutscenes and do some voice work and change it. Perfect. Wrestling game perfection.
It is up there. It is definitely up there. It was one of those where it knew the feel and tone of everything in it was immaculate for what they wanted it to be. It was very much exactly what it was meant to be. Everything about it was nailed.
The only gripe with the story mode, and again, I'm you know, this is one like I'll forgive because of limitations, but I'll also say like, you know, you could have not just copy paste as much. Like, so they took actual the dialogue, like the text dialogue, was all stuff that you would see like that came from a regular story mode, which is cool. You know, like I get it. So like you're doing the WWF title story mode, and if you win the Royal Rumble, you're kind of like on essentially what The Rock was on in going to WrestleMania 2000. Cool. Like, you know, do that storyline. It's fine. It was funny how Big Show wasn't on the game, so they replaced him with Stevie Richards, and Stevie's one of my boys, so
Nice.
cool for Stevie.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
Biggest star Stevie ever was right there. But anyway, you know, but then like I'm deciding like I'm gonna try this mode with fucking Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy. And you know, like and then I have Matt Hardy or Chris Jericho or Jeff Hardy or, you know, The Undertaker talking about laying the smackdown on somebody's candy ass. And I'm like, ugh. And then, like, if you get to, like, the final part of if you get eliminated early from the Royal Rumble, you're on, like, a Chris Jericho story mode. If you make it to, like, the final 10, you're on, like, a Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you win, you're on The Rock. And then if you fail to qualify for the Royal Rumble, you're on Mick Foley's. Like, so those are the 4 different stories. And if you defend the title, you're Triple H.
Yep.
But okay, I get it. Then I remember one time with I think I just decided I was going to try it with Taka Michinoku. And I went to the I got eliminated, and like I was like the second to last guy eliminated. And I have Taka Michinoku. If you're ready for WrestleMania, give me a hell yeah! Like I don't know if the technology existed for like, okay, this dialogue will only be there if you're doing this branching path with Austin, or if you're doing this branching path with The Rock, or if you're doing this branching path. I don't know if I guess it didn't.
Yeah.
But you could have like found a more generic thing to say. It's like, okay, yeah, The Rock sounds generic, but I'd rather The Rock sound generic doing that than, you know, Kane saying he was laying the smackdown on somebody's candy ass.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, having fucking S.A. Rios talking about Stephanie McMahon being a filthy, rotten, disgusting, bottom-feeding trash bag hoe.
How?
Yeah. uh,
Yeah. Yeah. You had your limited text choices, which, give or take, they concentrated on the stuff that mattered.
yes, they did.
So
The backstage again, they improved the backstage, like, because you had 4 areas and they all did different cool shit. You know, you had the hallway, and then you can go in one. It was the locker room, and the locker room had like a chair, had a table. Um, you could reach in the locker to grab a weapon, which I thought like you were reaching into the crowd. I thought that was cool. Then you had the boiler room, which had like the walls. I think hurt more. Like when you put them in there. They had the loading dock, which I think like I didn't like that one as much, but like it just kind of had like a cool aesthetic because you'd always see the parking lots on wrestling.
yeah.
And then my favorite was the bar, the APA bar, just because it was so fun to like throw them up on that pool table, put them through it. Then you had the pool cue you could beat the shit out of them with.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was
Like,
good.
and also, so I when I first got the game, obviously this person wasn't an issue, but then when I started replaying it 10 years ago, this person became an issue. So I re-edited him into Bryan Danielson because the finishing moves were the same. Bryan Danielson, not Daniel Bryan, because
Yes.
Bryan Danielson was more serious and in line, and
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson, didn't do yes, so him not having the yes taunt was okay.
Yeah.
He would have just done this guy's taunts, and so that's what I did.
Nice. I respect that. I liked that guy back in the day, and it really irritated me when I'm like, why does everyone that I like turn into a freaking douchebag or die?
Well, who else? I mean, who else was in there that turned into a douchebag?
Well, I wouldn't say turned into a douchebag, but it's like, I like Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman ended up like concussing Chavo and then got shot off on the chopping block. I liked Benoit, and then he turned into that. I liked Eddie. Died. I liked Rhino. Shipped off to TNA because they didn't like him anymore. I was just like, can't win.
Okay, so at least at least Rhino went to TNA. At least Eddie's legacy is intact.
It's intact.
At least Kidman. Okay, yeah, you're kind of fucked on. We're kind of fucked on Kidman, but still.
It wasn't so much of returning the douchebags, just like don't like a wrestler because they're going to go somewhere, die, or turn into a douchebag.
My favorite's the opposite. He was a douchebag and then became better.
Yes.
Unless you're FTR or a staunch AEW supporter, or still one of those Bret Hart fans holding a grudge, which I don't fucking understand because Bret and Sean are friends now.
Yes,
like other than friendly, trolling of fuck Sean, fuck Bret from the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, they're here having dinner together and hugging each other and talking about their grandkids, so why are we so mad at each other?
And it's like, who's the first person that will admit that he was a piece of shit back in the day? Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Just like, what are we doing? What are we doing at this point? Like, if the guy will admit he knows he was a douchebag and got better, or if you're one of those people that doesn't like the reason why he got better.
Yep. I've heard people say that. They're saying like, he might. I actually remember in the old days of the message boards, and this is before. Like now, I understand why people don't like religion. I'm not saying I don't, I like or anything. Like I'm not going to talk about. I understand like why people don't like super Christian people now.
Yes.
But on the flip side, I remember somebody saying like, he traded one awful thing for another. Honestly, probably would have been better if he just would have OD'd and died instead of believing in imaginary friends. And I'm like, Dude, even if you're even if you're an atheist, I don't think many people are gonna say it would have been better for him to keep doing drugs and dying in a hotel room rather than
No, no,
finding, a religion, even if you may not believe in it. But
yes,
come to find out, a lot of people have that mentality, and that shocked me as
yeah,
a young 17-year-old kid
yeah,
that was going to church.
yes. And we don't need to get into religion, but everyone who's watching, not every Christian is the Westboro Baptist Church. Just keep that in mind. There's a difference between an actual person that follows it and a person who uses it as an excuse to do stupid shit.
Yeah. But, you know, whatever. I know now he's like he's the most overrated wrestler of all time if you ask an AEW fan.
Yep.
That's because he books NXT and, ruined Tony Khan's birthday that one time.
Yes, and has one of the best female women's rosters in like
For
history.
Tony Storm so much. And I love Tony Storm. I think like everything
Great.
she's been doing. Yeah, everything she's carrying that company right now.
Yeah, she's
But
fantastic.
but it's not it's not as good across the board.
No.
She is LeBron James in the early days of the Cavaliers with that division.
Yes, she
Like
is.
we got okay.
Congratulations. We kind of have the Chicago Bulls over in NXT right now.
You got there's Jordan, there's Pippen, there's everybody.
Yeah, you've got like 16 Pippins at this point.
And so we're not sounding like chauvinists. They have Caitlin Clark over there right now, you guys.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
Caitlin Clark's over there
right now. You have the Caitlin Clark, who's, in my opinion, probably what they would call Stephanie Vaquer at that point, because my God, that woman is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. They had Julia, which I think is injured, but anyway, that's not behind your point. But we're talking about wrestling games.
Games.
Yes.
We would get fucking if we went in and like gave our true thoughts on wrestling, knowing how the internet feels you're supposed to think about pro wrestling, we would get like
it wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good. We don't fall in line.
No,
we don't fall in line with either company.
No,
it's just something up. Tangent number 2. Just because I prefer WWE's product over AEW now, I'm not a fucking staunch WWE guy.
No.
No.
There's stupid shit that goes on at both.
I'm just saying right now, it's like, hey, fucking AEW needs to step up. It takes me less work to watch AEW or to watch WWE. And right now, I think their product is slightly better. So why do I need to put more work into following AEW when I'm not enjoying it?
Yep, I agree.
So, who was your go-to on No Mercy? We don't really need to talk about 2000.
Ken Shamrock.
You had to unlock him, but still,
yeah,
Shamrock was badass.
After I got Shamrock, well, it was Bradshaw or Farouk before I really liked both of them. I was a massive fan of the APA. I thought they had the coolest entrance music on the planet. And then, and then after
got even cooler entrance music from APA with Shamrock.
Yes, and then I got Shamrock, and I'm like, this guy's the baddest man on the planet. I love him. Shamrock was the best. I love that he was just, I'm going to kick the shit out of you now. That's my gimmick. I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved it. And you had to unlock him. And after I got him once, I was like, yeah. And that's when I went, it reset. What do you mean I have to unlock him again?
Yeah. Oh. Mine reset once, and I was so mad. It's happened both times I've unlocked Shawn Michaels. And then I remember unlocking him again, and then I found it, and then I took him through the light heavyweight championship career mode, and then it like right in the middle of the ending, it's like freeze. I'm like, reset, all gone. But I had a backup plan.
Yes.
I had the backup plan. And the other cool thing about the guy I mentioned, Andre, this was like the first, I might be wrong, but like this is kind of the first, at least WWFE game where you had a legend. Usually, and I get, most legends at that point in time were in WCW, so, don't unlock them. Or they were the Stooges. Yeah. So, this is the first one there was like an in-game of you can unlock Andre the Giant, and then like later on, after WCW closed and they got the rights, granted, but it became more of a thing, unlock Hogan if you want to. If you want to unlock him. But still, it's, but, objectively speaking, Hogan. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlock,
The Iron
fucking,
Sheik,
Iron
Unlon,
Sheik.
Kozlov,
Um,
Sergeant Slaughter.
yeah, yeah, Sergeant Slaughter, Old Undertaker. Stuff
Yep.
like that. The British Bulldog, Bret Hart. All those guys. Like, it became a thing to unlock, or earn enough in-game currency to buy, in subsequent games.
Yep.
So, and a hoe was $500,000. Never unlocked the hoe, ever.
Once.
Once.
Once. I got that copy to go good for a while. Got that. It like soft reset again like 2 plays later. Ah! I was so pissed
To me,
off.
like, my whole thing was like, why do I want to unlock the hoe? I got Trish Stratus on the game. It was before Trish was a good wrestler, so her moveset is the standard
Limited.
that all the women had. But still, it's like, I already got my favorite female wrestler on the game already. Why do I need to spend $500,000 on hoe?
It was just one of those things as a kid where I started like, I'm a person that likes to get platinums in games where I feel like they're achievable and get the thing. That was the first one I was kind of like, I'm going to get this. This is stupid, but I'm going to get this so I can say that I did it because none of my other friends did it.
My whole thing was, I guess I was destined to have some sort of a smart mark hipster issue in me. It's like, why would I want to buy the hoe when I could buy the ability to throw a fireball in someone's face? Why would I want to spend $500,000 on the hoe when I could buy, the old big boss man attire and the old mankind attire, which I thought was cool. Like, you could
Yeah.
buy, the old school blue big boss man and the old school brown mankind. Like, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
The old Undertaker with the purple. Like, love that shit.
Oh yeah.
But okay, so moving on from there, the next wrestling game that I played a lot was SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. I never played Here Comes the Pain.
Yep.
But I got Shut Your Mouth for Christmas in 02. And then the next year in 03 when Here Come, even though I heard it was like so much better of a game.
There was a lot more to it.
Yeah. Never got to play it because I just kind of like wasn't not interested in wrestling, but I just didn't want wrestling games then for Christmas that year. And then by the time the next year came around, you had SmackDown versus Raw, which had the voice acting, just kind of like, I picked a bad year to decide I've gotten too many wrestling games.
Yeah. Yep.
But Shut Your Mouth was still pretty fun.
Yeah.
Flawed, but fun.
The open world kind of that you could go backstage in.
I think all the SmackDown games. I don't know about. I didn't like Just Bring It, but Fred Durst, whatever.
That was the thing. And also it had the I know everyone hated it, like Biker Taker. I liked it, but the entrance that you could get and Just Bring It where you actually had the combined of the Brothers of Destruction where Kane would do this and then Roland would start playing. I thought that was so fucking cool.
That was cool.
And the fact you could do it and Just Bring It was awesome.
The only thing like I couldn't on Shut Your Mouth, since we're talking about this is what I want to talk about Fred Durst. His entrance was on the game, was on Shut Your Mouth. With the car and everything. And they had this weird thing where they had like some preset templates, like 40 preset templates for wrestlers. And the first 4 of them were like personality, like they had first 4 of them were clearly Jamie Noble, clearly John Cena, clearly Chris Nowinski, clearly Paul Heyman. Those were like the first 4. They didn't have them on the game, but they had a preset create a wrestler template for those 4.
Yep.
So I did one for Cena, he was just the tights one, then put the rapper gear on him. And I didn't know like what kind of entrance to give him. So I just gave him Fred Durst's entrance. So on my copy of SmackDown Shut Your Mouth is John Cena.
It works.
Yeah.
It works. It does.
With like the generic rap. You know, beep, beep.
Yeah, that was that weird odd period where, if I remember correctly, you could get like all of Rey Mysterio's tattoos, but they didn't have Rey Mysterio. Like you had to
Yeah,
make the 619 and like a couple other things, and I'm like, why do we? Okay.
but you want to talk about like that's where I realized like how because back in the day, you didn't have community creations. You had somebody who would upload pages and pages of things that you would have to print, and then you would go and like width -63, height 12, and you would get the perfect wrestler, but it would take like 2 hours. So like I'd have pages and be like, okay, today do I want to play it or do I really want to create you know, whoever? Do I want to play this game or do I want to create Razor Ramon? Okay, I'm gonna create Razor Ramon right now. All right, I wasted 2 hours. My 2 hours video game time was made so that way next time I could play as Razor Ramon. Mm-hmm. But the story mode's not great. It kind of like has the whole at this certain point in time things are going to happen. It's really there's no consistency to it. It's got a 2K problem. There's no real like I just won a bunch of things. Why am I not getting anything? Oh well, you can win all you want, but it means nothing. And you gotta win the King of the Ring if you want a title shot. So I did all this for nothing. Yes, you did. And then you try and get like the other belts. It's like I want an Intercontinental title. No, but I haven't lost a match. No. Go in there and ask Ric Flair, like, can I get a European title shot? No. What? How? Like, there's no, like, maybe someone's figured it out, but, like, as 13-year-old me, I didn't know, like, how come he's not giving me, and then, like, just all of a sudden, randomly, he give me one, like, okay, great. And then, like, the deck would be stacked against me. I'm like, there'd be interference. The other guy would start off with, like, 2 more finishers than me. I'm like, great. But the most fun part about that was just the backstage areas. And this was kind of the case in the SmackDown Know Your Role too. Mm-hmm. Bunch of ridiculous areas. Like Irish whip them into a ambulance and the ambulance will explode and then they go flying and then they hit and break the car.
Yep.
So much fun.
Oh yeah.
Climbing to the top of the SmackDown fist and throwing them off, and then doing a 5-star frog splash that has about a 2% chance of hitting them.
That was one of the things where I timed that out perfect because they had it coded bad, and I figured it out. They always hit you would always set up the table and always hit the right spot. But the right spot was not where the table is. It was roughly 1.5 feet forward. So we'd always have tag matches where I'd wait for someone to do it, and then I would push the table forward and it would hit direct every time. Nice. Like I figured out the problems that they had where I'm like, your coding is just off by a touch.
The thing that I always hated was tag team cage matches with escape rules.
Yeah.
Because like eventually like your partner would climb over and then you'd be fucked and lose. Yeah, so I'd always like have to try my own partner, like, get your ass down.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Get your ass down. Let go. No, don't stop him. Let him go. Because we're gonna
cream the shit out of this guy.
Hey RVD, let him go because we're gonna kick Matt Hardy's ass. Let Jeff go. We're gonna destroy Matt Hardy.
Yes.
And beat the absolute dog out of him. Build up 5 specials and then okay, bye RVD, have fun. And I'm like play as my creator wrestler and Brainbuster and Brainbuster and Brainbuster and Brainbuster and Brainbuster. Climb. We win.
Yeah, there was fundamental flaws in programming that they wouldn't think is how you're supposed to do those sort of things, but yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I like to do on that game, I shouldn't say I liked it, I was forced to do. They had all the female roster and like Shawn Michaels, Vince McMahon, and Ric Flair. I never did it with Vince, even before all this, but they weren't available in season mode. The actual ones that were on the game, all the wrestlers were unlocked already, but none of the female roster, Shawn, Vince, and Flair, you could play as in season mode. So if you wanted to play as any of them, you would have to, you couldn't just do the cloning thing like they did on, like you did in the No Mercy. You had to like create them. So I'd have to create a wrestler, grind the fuck out of creating a wrestler so I could play as Trish Stratus or Shawn Michaels in career mode, which I did eventually. Trish Stratus main event WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin. I beefed up her stats. She didn't have they gave all the women lowly stats. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Trish was kicking ass.
Yep.
Yeah, she still did a chick kick and a Stratisfaction Bulldogs a finish, so I had to save up several of them or, try and, but still.
Yes.
Undisputed champion, Trish Stratus. And you couldn't make her you could create her to look like a female, but like when you picked gender, there was like male, female, or had question mark.
Or neutral.
Neutral size neutral. Yeah, neutral.
Yes. Yeah.
That was good. I was good to go.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So, but like that's what I do with a lot of female creator wrestlers. I'm like, it's really dumb that they can't bust each other open. So I would just make the female creator wrestler, but make them a male, just so they could bust each other open. I'm like, it's equality.
So what about you? What's some of we've gone through mine. What are some of yours?
What everyone holds in reference for the Aki games, which don't say that I don't, because I do, is what the SmackDown games were. Because I was, after the N64, I was a PlayStation kid, and then SmackDown versus Raw like changed my life when I was playing wrestling games, because you could get contracts for your managers, you could go for whatever belts you wanted to go for. It was ridiculous. And and it got toward the end, like the very last thing you ever did was get Trish's management contract, and it was her panties on a fucking thing.
I remember that. Like, I was like, if you didn't have a belt, if you didn't have a belt, you weren't going for a belt, and you didn't. If you turned down, if you lost the Royal Rumble, said yes to going for the U.S. Intercontinental title, but then lost the match before WrestleMania, you were stuck there.
Yeah.
If you were Intercontinental or U.S. champion, lost the Royal Rumble, you got a storyline with Vince. If you lost the Royal Rumble and won the U.S. Intercontinental, you'd be unifying that belt with somebody at WrestleMania. And if you were the world champion, you'd be unifying that one. Now, those were the 5 stories to get into WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was.
I remember, like, me and my friend were playing it, like, we saved at the, it was like a 4-way cage match to get the Intercontinental title. We lost the Royal Rumble, went for that, and we're like, we got to save here. We got to keep playing this because I don't want to go to, as we put it, Pantypalooza. But the other funniest thing about that was when they book it, we're going to, because, no one talks like this on the actual show. They'll just say, you're having a triple threat ladder match. But because of just how they are on games, and probably just had fucking Vince read from a script, a triple threat tornado tag team ladder match. Like, can we have more adjectives, please?
Yes, exactly. And like that was when it was corny as shit. When you're having like, I don't remember who it was like Kane or someone who wouldn't do this stuff, going like, "Look what we got to the."
Yeah, I remember like seeing Kane or Chris Benoit being like, "Look, imagine Trish wearing these."
What are we doing? But like, I love that you could actually be like, you go into a match and be like, you've got Sable, you've got whatever, and then like, if you were a champion, your belt would be sitting on the announcer's table.
Yeah.
You could just go grab it and bash the dude in the face. I'm like, that's realistic. I like that shit was in there, and they started doing more of like creating your moves. They had more systems eventually in the SmackDown vs. Raw games where you could like hold a guy up, and then depending on what you picked, you had 3 moves that you could come out of a suplex with. I'm like, this is fucking great. they eventually started introducing a stamina system, which I hated.
Hated
But
that.
there was some where you could turn it off, which I liked. But when it got towards 2K, you couldn't get out of that shit, and that's what killed me with playing wrestling games.
Yeah. The other funny part, like, so on SmackDown versus Raw, they had voice acting for everybody else but your wrestler.
Yes.
That was still text, which, okay, whatever.
I'm happy we had some.
But I remember, picking the Undertaker. And then there's the one, like, I made him kind of the heel whenever he, like, had to win Sable's contract. And then, like, he wins. So then, like, it gets, like, a very uncomfortable these days vibe where he just, like, plants one on Sable right after he wins. And she, like, looks dejected. And, like, there's, like, Undertaker essentially Flair strutting.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, God.
It was awesome. It was great. I was like, this is stupid. And I love it.
Yeah.
But then they also had, like,
when you played as Undertaker, like, we had this joke, like, if you didn't, like, they keep doing these same animations, like, until you pressed X.
Yep.
So, like, we just one time just, like, let it go as long as we could, like, for a long time playing it with Undertaker.
Of course.
And me and my friend are like, the lady said no. Get the hell out of here. I am the Undertaker, and I'm here to tell you the lady said no. Get out of here. I am the Undertaker, and no consists of 2 letters, N and O, so get the hell out of here. I am the Undertaker. Get the hell out of here, meaning leave in a very, very high manner. I use profanity. I am the Undertaker, and I'm using the profanity to exasperate where we want you to go. I am the Undertaker.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, that was one of those where you could tell they're figuring shit out, but they're not quite figuring shit out. It was great, but like they started getting more serious with certain stuff. Like you could drive forklifts around and stuff still, but like there was stuff from Here Comes the Pain that people bring up for high reverence because like in Here Comes the Pain, you went to the backstage area, you could get on the rungs of a helicopter and go up, and you could whip manhole covers like frisbees at each other and shit.
Right.
So like I wish that stuff would have carried over because there was a lot of the stupidity involved still. But then, like, you get further on and they got, like, really dumb. Like, I don't remember which game it was, but, like, you got in a storyline with Candice Michelle who had, like, her wand or whatever, and she could turn you
I remember that.
Wrestler.
Like, she turned you into, like, the boogeyman and then a woman. Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
I remember, SmackDown vs. Raw 06 was better. One, because whatever wrestler you played as had the voice. But the only thing that sucks is, like, it was a set path. Yep. Like, it was a complete set path. There's, like, a couple deviations depending on what wrestler you chose.
Yep.
But other than that, it was like, and it might move, it might bump up here, and it might bump, go here. But it was the same thing. So the replay value was nil after you did it all. Like, I did it, if you played as one particular wrestler, eventually you went on a Legends tour that was in that storyline. That was, like, always the deviation. And then if you were on Raw, Raw was being sabotaged by Bischoff. And then if you were playing as any other wrestler, like, you followed that through. But if you played as one of the wrestlers that coincided and was a big part of that story, then Vince knew about it already. And then you went on a completely different, like, one where just, like, they essentially had the guest hosts of Raw every week.
Yeah.
And then Teddy Long was run over by a car. And then if you're playing, you're the one that did it.
Yes.
Unless you play as Kurt Angle, in which case then it was Chris Jericho that did it because of his love for ECW when he was there for like a whole 2 months.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And RVD becomes champion and is trying to have ECW take over SmackDown. So it's like, okay, they're cool. But it's like, once it's done, like, I'm done. Like, there's nothing. There were 5 branching paths and many different branching paths depending on whatever in SmackDown versus Raw. But there was only minimal on 06. But it also had better cutscenes and the voice acting. So it's kind of like you take the good, you take the bad. You take them both, and there you have the SmackDown versus Raw series.
Yeah, and that was one of the things where I looked forward to it each year because me and a buddy Eric that I've gotten back into watching wrestling with, we would actually take the time to like plan out matches and like actually, you had to stick the thing in with the VHS and do this and record
Yeah.
and like for those that don't know, we were able to there was a way to put your own wrestling music in on the recording
Yep.
because you had to futz with the audio cables and then coming from the other and like that was back when I was like, I remember I'm like, I had this ambition to do this shit when I was younger. What happened?
I remember I didn't love the game that much. I mean, it was a good game. It's just I don't really have a whole lot of memories attached to it. But whenever like you could save music to the hard drive of the Xbox 360,
Yep.
you could put custom music in. And then I remember on SmackDown versus Raw 2010 or 11, I'm not sure. I can't remember which one it is. That's like the first where they had community creation wrestlers.
Yep.
So I was, and that was me in my deep in indie phase. I'm like Bryan Danielson. I mean, later he was in Daniel Bryan at the time, but Bryan Danielson. Oh, okay. They have Davey Richards. There's Austin Aries. There's Jushin Liger. There's Stan Hansen. And I remember like being able to actually put their music in. Chris Hero, Colt Cabana.
Yeah.
And I remember going on LimeWire and downloading all their music before I, gave my computer AIDS.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the day, we wanted music, but you have to give your computer a terminal illness.
Yeah. And putting them all on a CD and copying them over, and then like just being like so like cool, like all right, I'm gonna have it's WrestleMania, and here's a picture perfect Jushin Liger, and he's coming out to the Jushin Liger theme. That's awesome, like that. But then I never really liked playing the story mode that much, so
yeah,
whatever.
It was I like had one creator, and then we just like stupidly run around. It was always just trying to see the new shit you could do. And like it became car crash television whenever you played TLC matches, and that was the best part. We just tried to create the stupidest situations. Let's stack 2 tables on top of the announcer's table. If you have to glitch the game to get the person on top of the 3rd table, but then we're going to see if the graphics are going to let us put you through all 3. Holy shit, it actually let us put you through all 3. Like it was like lab experiments every time we got the game to just see how we could kick the shit out of these wrestlers. And a lot of times, I don't know if they plan to make shit work certain ways, but it was magnificent.
Well, I think we got more meat on the bone potentially for this topic.
Oh yeah,
because there's so many games we haven't covered, but we're gonna put a bow on this one. I think we hit like most of the big games. I do want to give a shout out to WrestleMania the arcade game before we go.
Oh, absolutely. And like, even though I was
Mortal
bad
Kombat with
at
wrestlers, that's all it is.
yes, even though I was bad at it, I played a shit ton of WWF Attitude. When I was that game was not great. And then like they made an ECW version, and I'm just like, why do I need to put in fighting game combos to do a fucking grapple?
Yeah, I did like Warzone just because of the videos. You didn't have you had a much more on Attitude. You had much more in depth. Like, or I shouldn't say in depth, but like a longer, more sustainable career mode. But then it was just kind of like you wrestle, 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 you wrestle. Yeah. Whereas like on that one, you had the recordings, videos, whenever like they come back to challenge you, which that was cool. And then that gave us the Fun with Ahmed series, which was one of the greatest things to ever come onto wrestling YouTube. So yeah, that is it for this particular episode. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media pages, facebook.com/athleticgeek89. The app everybody boycotted, but not really, at athletic_geek89.
The app that everyone boycotted and is now complaining about the reason why they boycotted it on the app for why they're But anyway, you can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mainly on Twitch and YouTube. If you're into cosplays and conventions and such, you can find me on my Instagram at Organoid Zero. I was just at Anime Milwaukee about a month ago, and I will be at Anime Detour for like a day. And then I will be at Midwestern Gaming Classic for a day because almost the entirety of the cast of Devil May Cry is going to be there, and I'll finally be able to meet someone in cosplay as their character, so I have to go. But yeah.
Beard's coming back. I see that.
It is. It will be sadly going away for Midwestern. It'll be going away for Midwestern Gaming Classic, and then it will be coming back fully until August. So, yeah.
Got more dedication to that than I do. But on that note, we will see you next time.
Bye.